There we go. All right, good evening, everybody. I would like to call to order the November 20th, 2024 Franklin Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order at 6:59 p.m. In attendance, myself, Chairman David Gerstenhaber, Vice Chair Donna D., and Supervisors Jim Johnson, Don Dowling, and Betsy Odgers. Also in attendance are Township Solicitor Guy Donatelli, Stan Corbett from ACOM, Ron Reagan of Reagan, and Ron Reagan is not here.
He's there.
Is he on? Okay, Ron Reagan, who is online. Megan Todaro of Pannoni Associates. I hope I said your name correctly. And Township Operations Manager Jeff Eastburn, Township Controller and Office Manager Melissa Tega, and Township Secretary Stacy Hollis. And there are 6 members of the public. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. So now I'd like to open the floor to public comment. This public comment section may include any comments relating to tonight's agenda. Commenters must state their name and whether they are a resident of the township or a non-resident taxpayer of the township. If you do not identify yourself, your comments will not be included in the official minutes. Do we have any public comment? Okay, not hearing any. We'll move on to approval of minutes.
Thanks, Dave. So I make a motion that the board approve the October 16th, 2024 Board of Supervisor meeting minutes. Can I have a second for that?
I'll second that.
All right, Dave. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay, and then I make a motion that the board approve the November 4th, 2024 Board of Supervisors workshop meeting. Can I have a second for that? Okay, Jim. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thanks. Off to you, Jim.
Good. Treasurer's report. And I think Melissa, are you going to say it? Okay, Melissa's going to talk about the treasurer.
The October 2024 Treasurer's Report includes the following disbursements. The general fund with disbursements and transfers of $165,886.40. The Park and Rec Fund with disbursements of $3,329.19. The Open Space Fund with disbursements of $5,350.16. The Capital Reserve Fund with disbursements of $0. The Emergency Services Fund with disbursements of $0. The Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $580.80, leaving a balance in all funds totaling $2,625,958.38.
I'll make a motion.
Sorry.
Make a motion that the board approve the October 2024 Treasurer's Report as presented by Melissa Ortega. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Donna. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries 5-0.
The zoning officer's report. This report was compiled by the township zoning officer, Mark Gordon. He's not here. In the month of October 2024, there were 8 permits issued for $6,406.21. From permit fees, $0 in miscellaneous fees, $0 in recreations and open space fees, $0 in impact fees were collected, and 51 inspections were performed.
Now I'd like to introduce John Gontars for the Planning Commissioner report.
The Franklin Township PC met on Thursday, November 2nd to review the comments of the Chester County Planning Commission on our solar ordinance. The review process we went through, we identified a few procedural questions that we felt were best answered by Guy Donatelli. And a couple questions came up which related to the frequency of inspection of the panels and a few other issues which we thought possibly, along with Gardens, because they have a solar facility, would be able to answer those things. Jeff sent out a note to Guy Donatelli, for which I received a response. And also he sent out a note to along with Gardens, who directed him to the Solar Away owner. And Jeff, I'm not sure if you got a response from those, but at this point, there was nothing in the Guy Donatelli report that was really a red flag. They're more procedural issues, and what we'll do is we'll discuss those in our December meeting. But at this point in time, we don't see really any issues that are going to block the solar ordinance from being moved forward to the Board of Supervisors at our December meeting. Now, Mr. Johnson was going to look at end-of-life issues related to solar arrays. And the question there was, how do you determine the end of life of a solar array? There's a time associated by the manufacturer. There are other criteria as well. And that'll be one of the points we'll discuss in our December meeting. But I do not think we're going to have any issues that are going to block it from moving forward. That's about it. So we're looking forward to the December meeting and moving the ordinance forward to the Board of Supervisors.
So, hey, John, I got a quick question.
Yeah.
Why do we need to decide what end of life means? Wouldn't it be when the organization, our concern would be the organization that operates these units ceases to operate those units, whether they are fully functional in the middle of their lifespan or at the end of their lifespan. So whatever triggers them no longer operating the solar panels, which should trigger the escrow or however we want to call it, to dispose of the units. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I follow what you're saying, and the issue that we identified when we were discussing this is that at end of life, the owner has to decommission the facility and dispose of the arrays. That is not a trivial issue, because when the arrays are decommissioned, by federal regulations, they become a hazardous waste. And there is a reason that an owner may want to extend the end of life, just not to face that situation.
I see.
Effectively, an owner could put on a 100-watt bulb on his 5-megawatt facility and say, well, it's still generating electricity. And if, do we want to get into a court battle with that? So what we would like to do is have some definition of end of life.
Like a minimum threshold of power output of some form.
Some threshold, and we don't know what that threshold is. And that's what we were discussing. So I'm not sure, Mr. Johnson, if you've determined anything. Basically, what we thought was when the facility is no longer economical, but then we have to define that. We do have in the ordinance the ability to look at what is going on from a financial perspective. But if financially the facility is showing a net return, then the likelihood is that the owner is not going to put any money into that facility. And one of the things we don't want is we don't want those solar panels falling apart, being flooded by rain and percolating into the ground and ruining the groundwater, so that people around there who have wells have to deal with contamination of heavy metals. Right. So it's not a trivial issue. So that's the reasoning that is an issue. Okay.
Yep. Understood.
Yeah, John, well said. I think that's exactly what we talked about. And we wanted to have a triggering event so that we can put a line in the sand and say, now you have to, take care of your remediation of this or removal of it. So either refurbish it, remove it, or whatever. We want to have something to go by. So we don't have all the answers yet, but by the next meeting we should.
So John, this is Donna. Once you guys are done looking at it, can I expect that you'll send to the board like a track change version, like as opposed to something with consider doing X, Y, and Z? You'll have already done that considering, and we'll get a document that you put in your changes.
Oh, yes.
Okay, good.
At this point, we don't see many changes, but if there's anything that is significant, yes, of course, we'll put that in.
Right, and if you want to comment, you can put some comments in the comment box, but just so
Sure.
it's easy for us to look at the,
No,
because
no,
we're
no,
all
no.
pretty familiar with the current version, but that way we can see what you've changed and,
No, that makes sense, and it would show up in our minutes too. So yes, we would. You've got to know that. You just can't go through the whole document looking for a sentence that's changed here and there. That doesn't make sense. So no, that would be done.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, John.
All right. Anything else? Because I'm going to hang up.
That's it. Thank you. Appreciate the update.
Okay. Bye bye.
Okay, next on the agenda is the 2025 budget discussion. Does anyone have any questions or need for clarifications of what we talked about last month? I think the consensus of the board was to allow the proposed budget to be advertised and to have us available for inspection. And I think
The only comment I have is that we need to have just a brief discussion after an executive session to talk about compensation for our employees. It may not even change the budget, but we need to have that conversation.
yeah, agreed. Okay. So I guess last month, Chairman Gerstenhaber announced the 24 last year, I'm sorry. Budget was presented by Ms. Ortega, had been reviewed, revised, and agreed upon by the board. This budget will be advertised to the public. The budget may be reopened in January if requested by a new board member. The board discussed how changes in income tax, real estate tax, and MS4 mandates could impact the budget. It was agreed that the funds allowed for future MS4 costs would be placed in a fund the township could access if there was any emergency. Other than that, I think do we go with a
You need a motion to advertise the 2025 budget.
okay. All right. So I'll make a motion that we advertise the 2024 proposed budget as discussed on the October
2025.
the 2025 budget as discussed in the October 2024 board meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thanks. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Say nay.
All
All
right.
right, motion carries.
All right, we've got money
For
for as much as it is, So 2025, good, we're a little early this year.
Ready?
We're ready.
Okay, with that said, we do need to talk about the MS4 project planning and grants. And with us, we have Megan Tadero and Ron Reagan to talk about that with us.
He also
And
added
you have Nate Klein here, Donna, as well. I was able to join in, so I apologize. I had a couple different meetings tonight, but my earlier meeting ended, so I was able to jump in as well. So good to see everybody again.
Thank you.
Obviously, Ron and Megan is with us as well. Jeff, are you able to let Megan pull up her screen? Is that doable?
I'm trying to get there, young man.
Fair enough. So appropriate, we're having this discussion after your budget discussion. I'm going to, suggest that this is maybe a positive modification or discussion regarding that. As you guys all know, and I think you've had some ongoing discussions regarding MS4, PRP, and the various, DEP unfunded mandates. Ron, Jeff, Megan, myself, we've been talking over the past few weeks. Donna's been on a couple of our calls as well about possible projects, but notably possible grants that might help facilitate completing these types of projects for you guys. So kind of quickly, just because we just kind of had some discussions over the past couple of weeks, we met out in the field to analyze, somewhat quickly, just get a field view of some various sites that Ron and Jeff had kind of brainstormed previously, just to determine if there was any feasibility, as there is a grant that is due here in November, that is called the LSA grant. It's DCED, Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. It's the local share agreement, I think.
Shares account, local shares account.
Thank you. It actually comes from statewide gambling money. It might sound somewhat familiar only because they did announce them, I believe about 2-3 weeks ago. And they were the grants that were submitted this time last year, were just announced, I believe almost the week before the election. And hundreds of grants were given out in varying capacities, amounts, all across the board. So, in looking to solve this issue for Franklin Township, we thought that there could be a good opportunity here, but it is a quick turnaround. So what we're looking for tonight is trying to explain to you a little bit what we're trying to do here. Jeff's given us a little bit of rope to just figure out what we got. And what we were thinking is at Franklin Preserve, doing a stream restoration project. I believe it's Parsons Road is essentially the start going north into the park. And thank you there, Megan, right there. So it'll be from the road at Parsons going north. And what we'd like to do there is we're going to call it a stream restoration. And at the bottom of this slide, you'll see some photos of the existing stream where the embankment's cut in, the erosion is occurring. What we'll do there is restore that slope to a proper cross slope of 2-to-1. And what that will do is in the DEP world, and guys, again, these are the regulations that are being handed down, is give us the credit for reducing sediment in our streams. And we think that with this one grant and this one project, we can meet all of Franklin's commitment. Okay. And why is that good news? Well, the good news is this grant is 100% grant. There's no match required. Okay, it's a pretty good opportunity. So I don't want to mislead you as that this is a slam dunk to get the grant. This is kind of in between. They give money out for all kinds of crazy stuff, fire trucks, parks, but it's a hodgepodge of money that's given out. There's a little bit of a political bent, so we'll have to kind of follow up with that later. But it's a very easy application. So this is not a $20,000 design. This is a few $1,000s of field investigation, some cost estimates, getting a resolution from you guys and writing this narrative up. And Megan, Ron, and Jeff and I are pretty close to being there, but obviously we need your guys' blessing to proceed with this. Beyond that, and where I want to be clear is this is kind of one project that, again, we think solves that problem for you guys at potentially almost no cost, potentially, and I'll get into that in a second. However, Ron, Jeff, and I, we've been having ongoing discussions about two things. One is we'll continue to see what other grants pop up in the spring so that maybe we have a few pokers in the fire, a few options out there. And third is we're looking at maybe some collaborative arrangements with other municipalities where there might be a low cost option where, we pay somebody to get something done at a low cost. We can't get grant monies for that type of situation in most cases. But again, I want to reassure you that we're trying to look at all opportunities. We're just trying to find the least cost option. Again, when I was talking to Melissa and Jeff the other day, part of the explanation is guys, if we can go and get $850,000 from the state of Pennsylvania, the money you've been socking away in your budget for MS4 and PRP projects, you can use that at your parks. Go use that for the roads. Go use that for something else. So that's kind of what we're looking at and kind of the big picture of where we're coming from. Megan, maybe just go to the next. Do we have one more slide here? Yeah, and I think this gives you a little bit of representative, guys, of kind of what we're thinking. So just, cheap and easy on the bottom. That's not what it's going to be, right? I want to give perceptions. You have all probably seen similar type examples while driving around the county. I know I have. It's going to be a little bit of a combination of the top three. I don't think we have an exact picture of what this is going to be because, again, we're just talking real high level. But if I could say it's probably a little bit of a combination of the top three pictures, and what it's not going to be is something at the bottom, right? A real severe armoring or a real severe riprap rock structure, things of that nature. So, that's my 5-minute kind of spiel on kind of where we're at and what we're looking to do. What we are looking for tonight, again, I don't want to misstate anything. This is not a DEP PRP submission. This is not an annual report. This is trying to get a project in the queue to execute on to meet all those requirements. Big picture, if we were to apply for this grant, we would not even hear about it until this time next year. We would then have to go through the process of permitting and design. In theory, best case scenario, this would be a late 26 project. So again, big picture, think about, in theory, 5-year DEP permit cycles, that's 2 years down the road to even have a shovel in the ground. So that's the kind of planning and steps that need to happen for these possible solutions. So I have been doing all the talking. I apologize. I talk fast. I talk quick. Ron, Megan, Jeff, did I miss anything there, or did I kind of hit all the main points, do you think?
I just want to throw in that I would support this project wholehearted, that anytime we can get our load reduced and removed from a burden that we have to pay for to a burden to something that's paid for through a grant, I think, that's the best world that we can work in. Also, it's not a stream that doesn't need some improvement, even if we weren't doing it for the MS4 load reduction credit. This is a stream, as you could see from the previous photos that Megan had up, it's pretty severely eroded. So that affects the health of the environment, the health of the critters that live in the stream, both the bugs and if there's any other frogs, tadpoles, snakes, anything else you can think of that live in a stream, it's going to improve that situation. Plus, it would improve the situation downstream, because all that sediment that you see, it's part of the puzzle that's missing in those photos, existing stream conditions photos. That sediment is going downstream somewhere where it flattens out and the energy reduces in the stream. That sediment is being deposited, which also has a very negative impact on the stream. I think next year, budget-wise, it would be a year where we're going to be doing a little bit of planning, but you're not going to be spending a lot of money designing anything or building anything, because we have this one out there as an opportunity. But it doesn't mean we're going to sit idle, because if this doesn't happen, as Nate pointed out, we can't keep waiting and putting it off, because we've only got 5 years. We're consuming 1 year of that time just waiting to hear back on this grant. Right. So we have to have some other projects in the pipeline to try to back this one up should we not get this grant.
Yeah, but Ron, even so, you said something really wonderful, because when we think about MS4, sometimes you think about we're doing it because we have to do it, not because it really makes a difference. And you made the comment that, in your opinion, this is something that's worthwhile doing. And so I guess my question to you would be, even I want to get the grant, right? I hope we get the grant. But if we don't, it sounds like this is a worthwhile project that we pay for. We pay for out of our MS4 budget if we have to. So do you feel that strongly that you would do it regardless?
Right now, it's at the top of the list, but we need to look at some more. There may be some others. As you know, with the PRP side, we have been able to purchase load reduction credits from a larger project that has a much smaller cost than what this one would if we were paying for this without the grant. I mean, this would be a relatively expensive project for us to pay for out of the township's general fund, or whatever fund you're going to pull it from in the township. But there may be other ones out there. We're going to be meeting in a couple of weeks about another project that's going on in a neighboring township that we might be able to get in line to purchase some credits. So we want to explore all those opportunities. My point on this stream is that it's not just a stream that needs to have this done to fulfill a need for pollution load reduction. There are problems here from an environmental standpoint, regardless of whether we're getting load credit for MS4s or not.
Yeah, the other thing, just so everybody knows, timing wise, we don't even have a DEP permit yet. You're still working on that, right? That still has to go.
We have a email that they have tentatively approved everything, and they're moving forward with the draft permit. So we should be getting a draft permit any day. And they have concurrently started their, where they have to put it in the public notice into the Pennsylvania Bulletin. So it's getting processed at DEP. So essentially it's approved. We're just waiting now for the administrative paperwork.
So then they agreed to our numbers?
Yes.
Okay, this is news to me. I don't know how. Okay. All right, we can talk about this offline. All right, well, that's good news.
Hey, Ron and Nate, I have a quick question. This proposal, it looks like the portion of the stream isn't the whole stream. It just goes from Parsons Road to almost where I would call, is that the pipeline?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so it doesn't quite go to the pipeline, but it goes almost to the pipeline. Okay, just that part is the 1,100 feet. I got you.
Correct. And yeah, two things come into play there, guys. One is we're kind of backing into this, if that makes sense, right? So we've got a goal that we're trying to meet. We've got values that DEP sets for sediment reduction. We get credit for the amount of stream restoration. And then, that kind of backs in. It kind of worked out to happen to be right to that line. That then also kind of helps us for two things. One is as you go further north, yes, that's north, it does get more heavily wooded and more challenging. So I think we found the good portion of that stream that's going to be manageable. Again, what we're not into is going down and tearing down a healthy forest for the sake of something else, right? It's got to be the right fit. We felt like that distance worked. It's also going to reduce any complications having to go through that pipeline area too, which sometimes can be a little bit of a pain in the butt.
One thing I do also want to add is this is the first grant opportunity for a project like this, but come spring, there are further opportunities that we can use the same application documents and try and get funding from multiple sources as well.
That was gonna be one of my questions is, does this preclude us from going after additional funds? If we get money from these guys, does this mean that there's no money from anywhere else or?
No, I think it
absolutely
certainly
not.
is not. And I think we'd probably almost encourage applying for additional grants in the spring only because we think the grants opportunities in the spring often are more appropriate for this type of project. Am I terming that? Would you say right, Megan? Like there's more specific, these types of projects will be, we think, available in the spring, that this has a more better chance of being successful. So that's why we want to throw it out there a few different places.
Right.
Yeah, what's eligible for this program is very broad. You're competing against projects of all different caliber. The ones in the spring are a little bit more directive, so you can be very specific on your details and your projects.
Right.
I just had a question about it being a stream. In that section, there isn't usually water. It's a terrible ditch that eventually there's a stream down below. But I mean, you're talking quite a ways. From the pictures, you can see there's not water in it.
Yeah, it's a little bit tricky only, and I'll be honest. I personally did not get to go out there just because of the short time period. I just haven't been out that way since we started having these conversations. We also, until today, haven't gotten rain in about 60 days, which certainly doesn't help. But yes, that's more or less the headwaters of that stream corridor. But again, our permit specialist, our DEP guru here internally, assured us that that was enough to qualify for the DEP credits. Right. It's not the width of the stream or anything like that that really factors in from their perspective. This would still qualify as kind of an upper reach headwaters of this little corridor.
Right, something caused that erosion, right? And water, yeah, exactly. So it's,
I mean, that neighborhood, in Parsons it's all neck and down through there at some point.
Ron, when did we receive this good news that you told us about?
I sent you an email the other day that we had got notification that they had approved the recent submittal that we made, and we're going to move forward. They made a tentative decision to move forward with the and they've done this on not only this one, but on the one I'm working on in London Britton Township. They have elected to move forward concurrently with their processing of the permit with our public notice period. And I think there's pressure on DEP to get as many permits issued prior to the end of this calendar year. So they're doing that. On the previous two that I worked on this fall, they waited until after we had sent the paperwork back and said we didn't have any comments and signed off at that point to take this step. But they did do that. It was just earlier this week. So I think it was Friday I got that, and then I sent it out to you. So let me know if you didn't get it. I'll resend it, but check your email.
No, I will certainly check it. I just don't remember it, but not saying you didn't send it.
Unless there's other questions, more or less the ask tonight, guys, I guess would be to execute the resolution that was provided. I did copy Guy on that resolution. It is a pro forma resolution for DCED. One all of our municipalities will sign every time they're doing this grant application. If we do another grant like this, you'll see it again. Like I said at the beginning, we were keeping a pretty light touch on this site. So again, we're not designing, we're not permitting, we're just trying to get concept level stuff in for a grant. Try to double down in the spring, depending on the grant application, a little bit more work then. But, the ask in a future date would be, okay, now we've got some funding. Now we've got some money. Let's start spending engineering money. Let's start designing this. Let's start permitting. But, that discussion is probably a little ways away. At this point, I would suggest just sitting tight until some grant monies get lined up. I think that's a fair action item to at least show some progress.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
we gotta give them the
Okay.
okay to submit this.
So
thing.
I'd like to make a motion that the board approve the resolution 2024-10, a resolution stating Franklin Township will submit a grant application to DED. Is that? Yep,
DED.
for LSA, for the MS4 grant as described in Pannoni Associates Nate and Megan's presentation. May I have a second? Okay, Betsy. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you letting us jump on via Zoom tonight, keeping that nice and quick, hopefully for everybody. Jeff, if you could just get us a signed copy in the next couple of days. We will be submitting this grant, Megan, I guess the day before Thanksgiving is the goal.
Yes.
And we'll be sure to copy Jeff and Ron on all the paperwork. I think Donna, you're on some of those emails, so we'll keep you looped in as well. And you guys can distribute that as you see fit. Otherwise, have a nice holiday weekend next week.
Well, let me just thank you. I know we talked about this actually beginning of November and you and your group jumped on it right away. We're out the following week checking things out. So I can't say enough. Thank you. And the fact that Ron's telling us this is something that actually will benefit the environment is actually makes us feel much better. So keep up the good work. Keep on looking for those grants and thank you for your efforts to get this thing done in November.
Yeah,
Good work.
thank you very much.
Hey, Dave, could we ask Nate a question before we lose him? Because if I wait till the end of the meeting, I can't.
I'm
ask.
leaving.
We got to move on. Thanks.
Okay.
All right,
Talk
I'm going
later,
to take
Paul.
off too.
Do you want me to go next or?
Yeah, please.
Okay. All right. So the next issue we're going to talk, it's not necessarily an issue, it's an item, is the Lexington Point wastewater treatment plant operator update. And Stan, I'll hand it over to you and we can go through this conversation. Okay.
As the board has a memo that I prepared last week, which summarizes the status of those that have been received for the wastewater treatment plant operator. In short, the initial one was the operator recommended by the developer. He's been customized L&M Services is their name. I know we had discussed their proposal in prior meetings and it had come in and at a board workshop and assist with a number of questions. In order for the board to get a fuller understanding of the options, we reached out to the additional firms that the developer had previously contacted, got updated and complete proposals from them so we could compare apples to apples for what the EMA information provided. As noted, of the two additional firms, one appears to be qualified, the other there are some concerns with. The additional firm that appears to be qualified is, however, more expensive than the EMA and does not have specific irrigation experience as EMA has, and engineer irrigation disposal system at Lexington Point. So I think pretty objectively, the operator originally proposed by the developer, EMA, appears to shake down as the best choice, but that's certainly up to the board.
So Stan, what do you want us to propose, have that conversation and come back with a decision on that? Would that be helpful?
And I turn to the township solicitor here. There is the next step to actually affect this would be executing a three-party agreement that The land billing had drafted some time ago, and there's still some blanks to be filled in, but the body of the agreement is there. Executing that agreement, getting the both Keystone, the developer, and EMA signature on it, and then it can be presented to the board for signature. But if please interrupt me if I'm
Do you want us do you just want us to nod our heads or something? I mean, just to give you.
If might it be appropriate for the board to I'm sorry.
I should.
Sorry, I don't have the microphone in front of me. My apologies. One option, and I'll defer to the township solicitor if I'm misspeaking on this, might be for the board to approve EMA as an operator, subject to completion of that three-party agreement to the satisfaction of the township solicitor.
Yes, yeah, thank you. I think that's the logical next step. And if we have the discretion to fill in the blanks and make sure all the i's are dotted and t's are crossed and that the township is protected, I would ask for that authorization.
Can I can try to make a motion.
Try and make a motion.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that the board approve the selection of EEMA OMA Services as the operator for the Lexington Point wastewater treatment plant, subject to the completion of the three-party agreement that's being put together by Guy and whoever else he needs to put it together with. Could I have a second for that?
I'll second it.
Okay, so that's David. Any discussion? I want to just make a point. I think, Stan, you did exactly what I asked you to do, which was set up the side-by-side comparison of three different operators. Same, what we wanted from each of them, it's exactly the same. And it's a no-brainer comparison. These are the right guys, and we had the opportunity to meet with them several weeks ago, or several months ago, whatever it was, but they seem very good, and you were happy too, right? So I think this is I feel really good about it. I hope everybody else does too. It seems like and you're for it, so it seems like a good way to go. Okay. So any other comments?
So we're going to be talking about our letters or?
Yeah, we're gonna go next.
Okay, that's right.
So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Oh, any opposed, say nay. Okay, so 5-0. All right, so now what I'd like to talk about next and actually bring the board up to speed on this is that we've all gotten emails from Jeff informing us that he has requested several times that we have documentation from the current residents of Lexington Point and future residents of Lexington Point that they've been told about the fact that there is a wastewater treatment plant being built and that there's going to be a fee associated that will be collected from them to keep the plant moving forward, keep it going. And so, like I said, Jeff has asked several times, and what we've gotten from them, and everybody has a packet on their table, is we've gotten disclosures from some of the people. And just get here's my piece of paper. And just to be clear, what you have is 12 disclosures, but these 12 are from people that are either they have an agreement to build the property, or are they or none that have an intent to build, but they don't have a building permit yet. So that's the 12 that we have in front of us, and that's good, right? That's a good thing. But there's another 11 properties, 6 property owners that have been there for years, 5 property owners that have been there from 2023 to 2024. It's a total of 11 homes that have not signed anything, and that we've had feedback that some of them, 6 of them, do not plan to ever sign anything, and that they're talking to the lawyer about this. And so something that we as a board need to just talk about, but I think there's a possibility that what we could do with Guy's help and Stan's help is request an amendment to the agreement such that this has to get rectified. Somehow Lexington Point needs to work with these owners and make sure that Guy, you'll give us the right words, either they acknowledge that they've been told about this, so it's on the record that they've been told that this is happening, or they sign a disclosure, but whatever, this has to be taken care of before we What, start the project up, right? But, go ahead, go for it.
And Guy, that would be also, it could be a reference to something they signed when they signed their deed or their agreement to build their home with Lexington.
Right. The takeaway from Ms. D's comments is that the board wants to be sure that the 11 property owners understand that when this plant becomes the township's responsibility, that they understand that there will be rates associated with sanitary sewer disposal and treatment. It is not an exotic concept. But when, as I said earlier, when the developer, when Keystone turns over to the township operation of this plant, I don't want to be handed something in flames. I want a certainty, or I would recommend that the board would want certainty, and to a certain extent, maybe resignation is the best word I could use, but a recognition that the ratepayers understand what the obligations are for this utility. And I think the best way to do that would be to work with Keystone or its representatives, and we have someone here who was kind enough to join us this evening, not representing Keystone, but capable of offering information with respect to Keystone's understanding. Modify that agreement so that the township gets what it thinks it needs, and that the residents are represented to a certain extent in what the expectations there are going to be for them or any owner that buys into this development or any development that has a wastewater treatment plant with treatment and disposal function. So that's a long way of saying I agree with everything you said, and I just wanted to sort of put it into that context.
So this is important to have, right? We need to have buy-in from the residents. We are going to take ownership of this facility. We are going to be responsible for collecting the fees to run the facility. And if, I guess what his guy said, we don't want to start and with a bunch of residents who are unwilling to pay, who are protesting this. And so we want to make sure that they understand what their obligations are. This is not something that the township is imposing upon them unduly. Like, we don't have a choice. And so I'm not sure, and I guess what I'm unclear on and is what the residents' expectations were and what they were told before this point, where they're now shocked by this path forward and what they're now facing, which is an on-site treatment facility for their sewer. So is this my question? I don't know if this is, you can answer, or you should answer. I don't know if that, but is this news to them, or is this just an opportunity to, like, it's just surprising to me.
No, I can't imagine a scenario where someone would credibly or genuinely say, I had no idea I was going to be responsible for sanitary sewer.
Okay.
And I don't know what the marketing materials say, but we know what the development approvals require and say.
It's Riley Notzel. I don't know if
Oh, good. Somebody from,
can you
I'm
hear
sorry,
me speaking?
maybe you should.
Who are you?
Yeah, this is Riley Notzel. I'm counsel for Keystone, actually. And
Okay.
I'm joining remotely. I just joined maybe like 10 minutes ago. But I've been listening to the conversation and can kind of fill you in on some of the questions you're asking, if that would be helpful.
Please do.
Thank you for joining us, Riley. Just for those in the room, Riley and I had a half-an-hour conversation this afternoon, which nibbled around the edges of this issue. So I'm glad you could attend.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for accommodating the remote participation because I couldn't be there in person. But yeah, these 6 lot owners, my understanding, and I haven't been involved from the beginning, is that there was a declaration recorded because this is an HOA establishing it. And I think originally the way it was written was that this would be an HOA owned and operated system. And so I think there might have been an understanding, or at least an initial impression, that, the HOA fees would cover that. And now everything has been amended and switched over to make it very clear that this is going to be a township operated system. So it's going to be in addition to, the HOA fees. I think that might be part of it. And Keystone has since amended all of the marketing materials, all of the public offering statement disclosures to reflect the current situation. And those are all being given by the sales department to prospective buyers.
So Riley, I'm not sure how long you've been involved with Keystone. We've been dealing with them for over 2 decades now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And from the beginning, and the reason we've been very particular, and we've been, making sure that all of these I's are dotted and T's are crossed, is because it was always understood that we would take ownership of this facility. Right. It's the reason that we've been, holding their feet to the fire to make sure that they were getting all this done. So I'm surprised to hear that at some point there was a note that there was going to be an HOA and this would be funded through the HOA. This is completely news to us.
Excuse me. Can you hear me, please? Can I step in here? This is Mickey Thompson. I'm the VP of Land Development Council for Keystone. So without getting too much into the weeds here, the original the six people that lived there, they signed agreement to sale, which specified that there was going to be a community wastewater treatment system in place, and that's what it was disclosed as. So it was going to be one that was going to be a common or a communal system that they were going to have to be paid into. So this was disclosed to these individuals at the time, and I'm in agreement with the concept that it's shocking that people would believe that they would be able to get this sewage for free for life, and I don't think that's the case, and we're certainly willing to pursue this and make sure that that we're protected and the township's protected, and we understand that this is an issue. We've had a couple cancellations of contracts for people that had agreements of sale because of the timeliness of this issue. Yes, there's been no permits granted, but we haven't been able to get permits granted because of the agreement and the inability for us to even turn on and test the wastewater treatment plant. So, we need to, while we're working all this information out, and obviously we're not going to try to give a rotten egg to the township to take over. Part of what the conversation was, and the reason why I'm here tonight, is while we're working on all the legals, I would really hope that we can get the township's approval to have DEP come out there and inspect and test the wastewater treatment plant, so that we can stop. We have a pump and haul agreement right now where we as a developer are paying $7,000 a month to haul off sewage for the site here, in contemplation of this wastewater treatment plant that is ready to go to be turned on. And we've met with the township, we've met with Stan, we've had conversations. We think we have a path forward. I think Dave Cutts might be there tonight, and I know there was walkthroughs with the site were supposed to happen today. And we're ready to start moving forward to get this station operational. There is a time issue here in that
let me stop
this
you.
Is the best time.
Stop. Let me stop you. Okay. So we're not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
All right. So I love these techniques where it's like, okay, now nothing happens, then we got to rush forward. So hear us. And I'm one of 5, but we'll talk as a board. So we have a situation where we have 11 folks, for whatever reason. If you have disclosures agreements from these guys, we want to see them. We've been asking for them for months. So get them to our lawyer, get them to Jeff, and then maybe we can take them off the list. We want proof that these 11 folks are aware. They signed something. They're aware that they are going to be, that they have this community wastewater treatment plant, and that they are going to be obligated to pay a fee. We want that in writing. Okay. So, and before one of 5 moves ahead with anything, I know you're anxious to get started. I hear you. I want some kind of legal agreement that Guy's happy with that says this thing is going to be part of our checklist before we, Franklin Township, take control of this plant, and it's on us. that this is resolved, that there's no lawyers, there's no legal issues, that these guys, these residents are all up and running, ready to go with us, because we're not going to take on something, wait a second, we're not going to take on something that we need to get into a legal battle. This is between you and it's between the residents, and you need to figure it out. And we need to get it into a legal agreement that this is something that's going to be figured out before we take over.
No one's we agree wholeheartedly. I'm not arguing with you with that at all. We understand that.
Okay, that's great. What
And
I'll
we-
do then is I will work with
we-
Riley. I will work with Riley to fashion an addendum of some sort that confirms recognition that the 12 and the 11, and I guess the model as well, whoever buys that, understands the participation by homeowners serviced by the wastewater treatment plant of the rates that they'll be required to pay or reasonable estimate thereof on a quarterly basis. And I'll put something together and we'll chat about it, because it all seems like, and we had a real nice meeting with Dave. We all seem to be facing the same direction, trying to move in the same direction. And I heard EEMA is one of the asks when we met was, let's get them on board, and we saw the board do that. So, Mickey, if I may, I'll work with Riley, and we'll make that happen.
So Guy, we meet, you guys go off, do your thing. We meet again in December. You have that back to us in December, then we can go back and talk about getting this thing up and running for them to do whatever the test, you know the words, whatever it is, to make sure things are going well, why it's called. But we're not 1 of 5. You guys can say what your decisions is, but Donna D is not agreeing to anything until she sees that legal.
My,
So can I please step in, please? I am in full agreement that we need to get this over to you before you accept dedication of the wastewater treatment plant. There's no argument there. My request is that in order for this station, this treatment plant to be tested, the township needs to authorize DEP to go and start its startup. It might be in period of 6 months or longer before this station is to the point where it's been tested, it's been approved, and we're even asking at this point for the township to take dedication of it. But we need to get it operational. We need to get it working, because what's going to happen is,
we understand your position. I would suggest we get the paperwork done first, and then we can move forward. So the faster we get this accomplished, the faster we can get this inspected and up and running.
But one has nothing to do with the other. I'm still going to need to provide all the documentation to you before you accept it. But what happens if we have all the documentation, we go and we say, okay, we're ready to go, and 6 months from now they turn the station on and says, it doesn't pass inspection. We got to do A, B, and C to it.
Sure, it shouldn't take us 6 months.
Make sure that it's even working.
Here what we're saying. We're saying, let the lawyers go off, amend the agreement, get that back to us in December. You come back to us with that in December. We meet the first Monday in December. So it's like, we're talking about another 2 weeks. Come back to us. Our lawyer says everything's good. We will say, yes, go off and test it. Go off and do what you need to do. It's still good. It's not that cold now. You'll still have an opportunity to do that beginning of December. That's what we're saying. But before we give you that, okay, we want you guys, because I know how Lexington Point works. It's like, yeah, we're going to get to it. And then 2 months later, we're still getting to it. We're not playing that game. Your lawyers work with Guy, you figure it out, get it to us in December. We'll meet beginning of December, the first Monday of December. We'll look at it. We're good. We'll give you the okay. And then you guys go off and do what you need to do to, what's the word, to test it. Whatever the
Kick the tires.
Yeah.
It's, a final start with DEP. If I could elaborate a little bit, if the board would indulge me. What had been discussed at a meeting with Keystone representatives and GK a couple months ago was proceeding with a final startup with DEP to kick the tires, as Guy just mentioned, but not yet placing the plant in service until these other tasks were accomplished. What I just heard from Mickey is he wants the plant placed in service to just continue pump and haul. There are open technical and legal issues that need to be addressed before we have that discussion. I think it's premature to discuss that at this point.
We're not even, we're kicking tires now. Right? We're not even talking about.
Correct. So I just wanted to clarify the board that I believe it would be an inappropriate ask for the board to consider placing the plan in service in December. Yeah, okay.
All I'm looking for in December is the legal agreement. You guys still need to figure it out. You got to work with these 11 property owners and come to some kind of agreement. And until that happens, we're not even going to agree to take control of it. So you know, this December thing is just getting a legal document that says this is something you're agreeing to do. And then there's a lot of work on your part to figure it out. Franklin Township does not want to be in the middle of this. It's between you and the Lexington Point residents. You figure it out, figure out what they need to know. Whatever, however you and your lawyers figured out, but and then get us the documentation so we have a record of it.
If I may, tonight's the first night I heard about the HOA, and I don't think it shouldn't be an issue because either the costs were going to go into the HOA or the costs are going to come to the township, which would bill them anyway. So your explanation to them should be very simple, and you should be able to get their signatures very quickly, the way I see it. They have to pay for septic, and it's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I was just trying to provide some background on what I think. I'm not entirely sure what all the reasoning is because I haven't been as involved in this, but just wanted to highlight that we did update all of the disclosures on the HOA side so that purchasers are recognizing it as they sign agreements, and kind of nipping it in the bud at the front end of the sales process. And with these lots, it's sort of, we're going back to them on the back end and asking them to sign something, which is just a different, obstacle. So
Yeah, let me say that neither Riley or me have any institutional experience or recollection of what happened 2 decades ago. And when I spoke to him today, it was 2 lawyers talking about a problem and how to solve it. So and I will continue to work with Riley and his client to do just that, because we had a meeting here on election day and we were promised some documents, which Riley has gotten to me, and I'll have to review them. So we're already ahead of where we were then.
We've also been asking for these disclosure agreements and we don't have them all. So that's, yeah.
Are we moving the conversation forward?
Sean Auerbach, I was a supervisor for 10 years and presided over this thing. And one thing that I knew from the get-go is that all these residents signed some kind of an agreement with Keystone that they would be responsible for the cost of operating this wastewater treatment plant. Well, the township, I don't believe we ever saw the documents that were between people, but I believe those documents exist. I had numerous meetings with the 6 people that were originally there, and every one of them to a person knew that they were going to be responsible for paying for this thing here. The fact, I never heard anything about an HOA. The issue was that the DEP always wanted the township to be the operator.
We know what our marching orders are.
Yeah, Stan, do we have anything else? I think we got the operators. That's yay. That's good, right? So if you guys figure this out, then this be another big step for us.
Yes. I just, again, just to reiterate, I think it's premature to discuss placing the plan in service.
We're kicking tires.
Yes.
Let's kicking tires.
Yes, understood. And just to elaborate a little bit on John's history, from the time this land development plan was first approved to the first approvals that came through with DEP, it was always DEP ownership. There was never any suggestion of HOA ownership. I don't know the original declarations, but the history that I'm aware of, there was never that as an option.
So we don't know where that came.
The solicitor's report, Guy?
Let me
Yeah,
Give me a
I
second.
know, I know. I was trying to give you some time.
Please give me a second to send this email because Riley, I'm doing this in real time.
With the fire department.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I reviewed that, resolution. The concept here, after a presentation at the last meeting, the concept here is that there may be some efficiencies between the two volunteer fire departments. And the fire departments, Avondale and West Grove, are looking for some support for a potential merger of the two and the development of a study that will help the surrounding communities understand what's best for these emergency services. So they provided for us a resolution, which I reviewed. It's other townships have also seen it. I looked at it. It doesn't obligate us. It doesn't obligate the township to do anything or spend any money or undertake any efforts. It's not going to take time up from your administrators. It's just a show of support for their effort to create a more sustainable and effective fire rescue and emergency medical service system. So I didn't make any changes to it. I read it. It didn't seem to me to be anything other than that. And I would recommend that you consider it favorably.
Yeah. So the reason we kind of pushed back, and this isn't talking about all the things we already talked about today. This is a pretty minor issue, but the way it was presented was this resolution is to support us doing a fact-finding mission, and then the way it's written is it's much more like we support them merging. When we haven't seen any reason, we haven't seen the results of the assessment, but rereading it, I think it's okay. I think the point here, and for the residents to understand, one of the biggest costs facing this township is our fire and rescue cost. It's pretty substantial, and it gets more expensive every year. And the reason it gets more expensive every year is we're losing volunteer firefighters. It's becoming a professional service. And so whereas it used to be 70% volunteers and maybe 30% professional firefighters, that number has reversed. And so you're now looking at more full-time staff, more trained staff, and that significantly increases the cost of running something like this. And so it's very easy to control the cost of something if you have a volunteer service. It becomes you get the pressure of the market when you have to start paying these folks. So we have two, and I don't want to say competing. It's not really, they work in synergy, but we have two different firefighting units, EMS units that work separately. And what they're saying is it would make much more sense for us, economy of scale, to combine forces and service together the areas that we're already servicing together. And so in order to start that, they need to find a third party to kind of take a look at how that merger would look and what kind of synergies they would get. And this resolution simply says that we support the fire and EMS in their efforts in doing such a thing. And I think I do. Of course, I support that. We need fire and EMS. So we want that organization to be healthy and robust to service our community. So that's my soapbox. I don't know if anyone else, Betsy or Don, Jim, if there's anything else we want to add to that. Okay.
So I propose a motion to make the board approve, that the board approve a resolution 2024-09, resolution stating that Franklin Township is in support of West Grove and Avondale's fire departments assessment stage, which they may lead to a merger. Anybody second?
I can say-
Okay, any discussion?
Don got it.
Any discussion?
She's my favorite.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carries 5-0.
Now it comes back to me. I promise I'll be better.
Oh, no, we still.
Pro ordinance.
It's not me.
So we changed the wording to include, so the first comment was on including members who are not residents of the township. This was discussed and agreed upon last meeting. And I think the way the wording is in the ordinance is, and I don't want to read the entire ordinance, just the relevant changes was, a majority of the committee shall be residents of this township. The Board of Supervisors may appoint no more than 2 members of the committee who are residents of other townships whose municipal boundaries are contiguous with Franklin Township. So that was the first major change we wanted to add to that. And then there was another piece that we were talking about in between last meeting and this meeting, and this was to talk about grant proposals in seeking grants as part of the responsibilities. So you have this in here. Okay. Okay, so this would be for paragraph 16-110.b. The supervisors shall take resumes and or applications from those residents and non-residents.
An
And,
addition of non-residents for that one.
oh, right, and with the addition of non-residents. And then research and work with the committee should research and work with township supervisors and staff to apply for federal, state, and or local grants for the maintenance and improvements of township parks and preserves.
Right, so just add a G for 16.
Yeah, so it'd be 16-114.g. And then I think this captures my notes, which is basically the same. Oh, so the other part is within that ordinance, we want to clearly identify who's responsible for the actual execution of the grant. And so I want to make it explicit that it's the township staff and board who are responsible for this. We don't want the pro to be on the hook for making sure that all the I've already said this once today, but all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. I got to come up with a new analogy. Because again, ultimately we're on the hook for the money. So we want to make sure that the pro and the staff can work closely together to make sure that these grants are applied for and sufficiently maintained.
And those are just details on the new G, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that's the point here is I think we want to, and I think when it says research and work with township supervisors and staff to apply for federal, state, I think that's probably sufficiently worded. And I don't believe it's in here yet, is it?
It's not in.
No, it's just the add.
Okay, so we just need to add 14G and the change to 16-110.b. Guy, did you get a copy of this that he's going to work on this?
I did not, but it wouldn't.
Oh my God.
I probably missed it. I apologize.
Jeff?
But if you wanna send it to me again, I'll make sure I incorporate it into a new draft.
Okay. Jeff saying you're lying. Saying.
Just pass that down to them.
Here, can you send this over to the guy? All right. So Donna.
Right, so we're all in agreement, like, right, good, no comments on the pro? We're all happy with that, right? So that's done. Okay, so now we move on, right?
Interim road project.
It's gonna be simple. All right, so I'm gonna hand this over to you, Jeff.
Okay, I'm happy to report that the township did advertise the 2025 interim road project bid. There were 16 entities that pulled down that bid from our website. We did have someone from Newcastle, Delaware, pull that bid down. However, with those 16, we did receive a singular bid from Yardworks. And I've outlined in the bid in your board books, the percentage increases on some of the line items. So if you have any questions regarding that, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Should I make the motion and then we can? I don't know. Okay, and I make a motion that the board approve the 2025 interim road project bid package from Yardworks based on the recommendation of Operation Manager Jeff Eastern. Do I have a second for that? Okay, all right, I'm giving it to Betsy. All right. Yeah, poor Jim. You'll get the last one of the day. Okay. Yeah. Okay, any other any other discussion or questions for Jeff? Okay, great. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Great, David.
All right, so the last piece is the Crossan Park infrastructure updates. We have, I don't know if Jeff, if you wanted to go through some of the things you wanted to do, or if we want to just go right to Matt here. You can swap seats with Mark real quick.
And I wanted to add something quickly to that too.
Perfect.
Before or after, it doesn't.
Okay.
Am I on?
You are alive.
Okay, so I think last time we talked, Velomy was applying for a grant. I think we applied for 9,000. We ended up getting 5,000.
So good.
But the good news is we were able to acquire some wood that somebody that no longer needs. It's all oak, some maple probably. They had it milled to use for bridge projects, which they're not going to use anymore. So they said, take it. So we've taken one load. There's probably 3 more to go. So I think with that wood, we can do everything we wanted to in Crossan. So the big bridge we had talked about, the decking was starting to rot out. So we would still pull that up, use this milled wood, and redeck it. Probably have to look at the railing, just make sure that's still good. The other project that I'd like to do is the metal bridge that would connect Crossan over to Paradox. We had discussed about putting some ramps on either side. Again, the wood we have would do it as decking. There's some leftover stringers in there that I would like to get my hands on. I think they're like 3x8s, maybe 3x6, 3x8. So we could use those as stringers. I think they're 15 feet long, something like that. We could kind of cut them down to their appropriate size, whatever we need to make the ramps on either side. I'd like to do the full width personally of the steps. If we all know what I'm talking about, just get rid of the steps altogether, just ramp both sides. And if it's deemed the railings needed, I think the lumber we have could do that as well. So.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of having the railings for sure. 2 questions. Do you have to get rid of the stairs?
They're not getting rid of them. They're just gonna
Go over them.
It's just, and actually,
I misunderstood what you meant.
Yeah, no, sorry. I would actually I would attach the stringers into the stairs.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right.
Yeah.
That's where
Jeff, can you show the picture? Are you able to pull it up?
Yeah. And I guess my only comments would be, the railings would probably be a necessity, at least
I think it
low
would be
railing.
lowered anyway. There was probably.
Yeah.
And I guess the other question.
I think this gives you.
Yeah, and I think we've been going back and forth about wheelchair access and making sure that it's wide enough for a wheelchair to get up onto there, because there, ostensibly that area to the right of the bridge is a wheelchair access point. So it would be nice to be able to get some access up there.
And I think if I'm not mistaken, it's 80 inches wide.
Yeah, so
that should be, I think, good.
Yeah, so it'd be nice maybe to just be able to go up there. And I know, we've had conversations with some residents who are looking for more access. Wheelchair access to places.
Well, there's also,
this is a nice spot for them.
A friend of mine has a hand cycle, so it's
Okay.
like a 3-wheeled hand cycle. So actually, he could get across that as well. it would be wide enough for him to get across.
Yeah.
So,
That's good. Yeah, it would be good. I know we've had a couple of conversations about access, so this would be
So
nice.
it sounds like you have the money you need and like you're not really asking for anything except the okay to go, right?
I just need a thumbs up and I'll start.
Is this something that the engineer would have to look at?
I think you need some engineering.
Yeah. I mean, just to look at it real quick.
Yeah, maybe Ron Reagan take a look and make sure that he gets a thumbs up.
The ADA slope was 12.
I guess my only thing would be currently those steps, is that handicap accessible? So a ramp's gonna be,
Yeah.
even
So
if it's, so.
It's before any work's done, we'll have the engineer take a look at it. But but from a township perspective, I don't think we have any issue as long as our engineer's okay with it.
I'll just say, I know we talked about like trying to split it before. I like this.
Yeah, I
this one a
think
lot better.
it
Yeah.
gets too confusing and I think you're almost asking for trouble if you split
Yeah,
it.
I didn't think
Somebody
it was
comes
enough.
over, it misses it, and now it's,
Yeah, that's
so
better.
I think you either do it all, just,
Yeah,
Cool.
it's better. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll do something offline with Ron Reagan and talk to him and make sure that he's okay with it, and you'll let the board know, and then we'll move forward. All right, you're good.
Thank you.
Great.
Hey, Dave, could I make a comment from the pro before you approve it? That the 3x8s that Matt is proposing are actually, you guys bought them for me to use to redeck the first bridge we ever built in Bamshire. It needs redecking. So I would just ask that he buy different lumber for the joists
These would come at
leave
different
them for the decking. That's my only request. Otherwise, I support his ramps. You know, it's a good project.
Thank you, Paul.
Are we okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Thanks.
Thank you. Do you need that?
No, I need Jeff.
Okay.
Might need it anymore.
We always need you, you know that. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
On my desk.
All right.
Okay, so I was trying to get.
Well, I want Jeff to tell about the projects and then I have. Are you gonna go over the?
I think he's good.
projects for the park?
I would rather you go ahead. I don't have anything to add than from what I've said before. So
Okay.
You
Well-
have important stuff here.
I just wanted to say, and I'm not promising anything, but I went on the 3-hour DCNR Zoom about grants.
Awesome.
And I learned all about the grants and I have called our regional advisor and I've spoken with her. And those things that Jeff is working on at the park, the roofs for the buildings, the tennis court, the pickleball court, all of those things are possibilities. Now, these are matching grants. They're not total grants, but at least
Better than
it's a
zero.
step forward. She was very nice. And she's going to work with Jeff and I on Zoom to talk about what we can do and look at the projects and move
If I'm
forward.
available, can you? I'd like to be
Absolutely.
a part of that. Thank you.
Anybody that we'd love to have you because that would be great.
That'd be great.
Yeah, and matching is okay.
Well, see, that's what I said.
Something is better than nothing.
Well, I saw that and it's all about parks and it's all about the stuff and it's all about the things that Jeff had listed on the projects, right? Yep. And maybe, Matt, maybe eat in the bathrooms. I'm just.
All right.
All right. Next are the commission and committee reports. Mark Zawada's here for the Franklin Sportsman's Association report.
Okay, this will be quick. Currently, we're still archery only in the township preserves. That's until Saturday, November 30th. That's when firearm also opens. Currently, the 2 crossover trails in Bamshire have been posted as closed November 1st through December 14th. Our harvest report, we have 1 doe has been harvested in Bamshire. Hunter activity and harvest will increase with the opening of the firearm season on November 30th. And community service, as of November 12th, we were up to 139 hours. And that's it.
Go harvest some deer, please.
So firearms, you say firearms, it's shotgun only?
We follow the Pennsylvania Game Commission, muzzle loader, shotgun, and straight wall cartridge, which are basically pistol grounds that are legal, but it's not a neck down center fire like 3006 or high power rifles aren't allowed.
All right.
Thank you. So I think we're going to move on to the Big Elk Creek Advisory Board report. So Antia, if you could update us.
Okay. So we haven't spoken in a while. We need to cover meeting number 4 and meeting number 5 real quick. Meeting number 4, Representative Lawrence started the meeting off with a presentation basically about redesignating Big Elk Creek State Park to a preserve, which is something that has been a theme throughout all of our meetings. This presentation was supposed to take 10 minutes. We took over half of the time for the meeting, so it was about an hour and a half of discussion. Very clearly, Representative Lawrence and quite a few members of the task force agree on this preserve designation. Nobody opposed it at all. So after a whole lot of discussion, we did get John Hollis to agree to take that discussion and presentation back to Cindy Dunn and ask her about the redesignation. At that same meeting, we were separated into 4 groups to design our own state park and what we would like it to look like. In those designs, 3 of the 4 groups did not put a visitor center on their maps. The 4th group, which did consist of members and representatives from DCNR, did put a visitor center on their map. But there was no, unanimous decision from any of the groups about exactly what the park should look like. So nobody in each group could agree. DCNR was also, one of the groups was interested in DCNR acquiring the private property that's still owned by the Strawbridge Trust to the right of the parking lot when you're looking into the fields. There's a house there. Somebody still lives in that house as far as I know. So we basically said that's probably not going to happen, especially since Strawbridge is not happy with DCNR at this point. Most people agreed that any infrastructure should be located together so that there's not spread out infrastructure all over the place. If you're going to have a visitor center and a maintenance shed and bathrooms, they should be all in one location. A lot of people did like the idea of putting all of that infrastructure in Franklin Township where the current parking lot is, because that was the site of a farm at one point, rather than putting it in a field in Elk Township, which has always been farm fields. We did discuss tucking any of those facilities back into the trees a bit, though, so that they would be less visible to the neighbors. DCNR says the problem with that is there's a lot more sensitive vegetation in that area, so it's not a definite no, but it's definitely more challenging than if they were to put everything in Elk Township where there's a farm field. Let's see, moving on to the next meeting, they took all of those maps that we put together, that the 4 groups put together, and combined them into 2 different conceptual plans, which they unveiled at the last meeting in October. Those 2 conceptual plans were very similar. The first plan put all the infrastructure in Franklin. The second plan put all the infrastructure in Elk. And both plans had slightly different trail designs. Both maps did have connectivity plans for regional trail connectivity, where they want to take their trails and connect them to Franklin Township trails like Mount Olivet and to Spring Lawn Trail and into Peacedale Preserve. They also discussed needing parking on Walker Road near Mount Olivet because there is no parking there, and it's hard to use that trail when there's no parking. I did express a lot of concern about tying into the township trails because the more traffic that's on those trails and the more traffic on Walker Road and putting a parking lot, Walker Road's dangerous anyway.
Yeah.
Putting a parking lot there would be.
So let me just hit the pause button there.
Yeah.
We went through this last year when we closed Mount Olivet Road, and it's a serious safety hazard on that corner. So DCNR is saying we need a parking lot there.
DCNR would like to see a parking lot
Yeah,
there, yes, because
Very
they want
problematic.
people to be able to access Mount Olivet. They want people to access Peacedale Preserve, and they want to be able to put trails over that way to tie into that area. I did tell them that until they drive Walker Road, they really shouldn't think about putting a parking lot there.
Yeah, it's a serious safety issue.
It
on
is.
I didn't think there was room for a parking lot.
There's really not.
Talking about. Yeah.
They're saying up the road where they own the property, where the park starts, and
Oh,
DCNR
I
owns
see.
that
Yeah,
property,
yeah.
they could tuck it in up in there.
I gotcha.
But that still puts people on the road walking down to the trails.
There's no shoulder.
Exactly.
Or sight lines. Problematic for sure.
And I also, discouraged the whole idea of them connecting to the township trails without actually talking to the townships. And
They did talk to us about putting their Mount Olivet and Franklin Road on their maps. They didn't to discuss connecting any trail system to them. They just wanted to indicate that they wanted to use them.
Parking as these initial hiking.
I don't know if that was mentioned in the communication to us, but.
They asked to put it on their website that they could.
Oh, yeah. So what we've told folks who want to park on Walker Road is they can park on Peacedale, the existing parking and hike through if they like, yeah. And DCNR did reach out to Franklin Township and ask if we could include our adjoining trails, Mount Olivet Road. And I don't know if they mentioned Franklin Road. They might have. They probably did. But they didn't mention that they were going to be creating a connected trail system that would encourage people.
so this is what their plan, right? This
Yeah.
was what they were talking
But,
about. So I honestly would recommend not being included on DCNR's maps and on DCNR's website. Just because any additional traffic and any additional damage to those trails, any additional litter, anything like that is on the township to pay.
That's right.
So, you're in a catch-22. Do you want people to know that the trail is there and keep using it? Or do you create problems where you've got too many people trying to use the trail and the residents that actually pay for it now are dealing with a lot more traffic on their trails? So that was discussed. Then some of the loop trails that they want to put in will be ADA compliant, more than likely like a cinder trail, which is fine. However, when I was looking at the maps in the meeting, I was looking at the shape of the trails and realized in the meeting that those trails looked awfully familiar. I went home and James helped me overlay the original campground map with these new concept maps. All of the trails perfectly outline the edges of where the campground would be. So they're putting all their trails in an area where the trailheads would be right along their campgrounds. We did ask in this meeting for an update on John Hollis reporting to Cindy Dunn. He said they were taking it into consideration, but are not making a decision for now.
What do you mean that they're not going to go to Cindy and ask her?
They did go to Cindy, and Cindy and John Norbeck gave Hollis the answer that they are taking it under consideration, but not making a decision for now.
On what, camping?
On the redesignation of a preserve,
redesignation.
sorry.
Okay.
See, this doesn't make any sense to me. So if you guys are sitting there making a recommendation, why doesn't Cindy Dunn come to the meeting and hear you guys out? I mean,
So I'm getting to that.
okay.
So in that same meeting, John Lawrence and I brought up the fact that there was a news article in the beginning of October. In this news article, Director Hollis was asked about Big Elk Creek State Park. And in that article, he said that they are still considering their options and studying options for overnight accommodations in Big Elk Creek State Park. Most of the task force members were very upset by this statement. One of our task force members got up and walked out. So in all of that hubbub and everybody breaking down the whole meeting, not wanting to go further with the master plan, Senator King got up and encouraged us to continue to move forward with the master plan. So everybody's very angry. He was trying to calm everyone down. He felt it was important not to throw away months worth of work and that we should keep moving forward with plans for the master plan, despite all of the issues that we're now having with the overnight accommodations and the redesignation, and that we could deal with those issues later. The problem is this is meeting number 5. There's only 6 task force meetings. There's no guarantee that there would be any meetings after that. So nothing else really got done in that meeting.
He said he never took it off the table, but he
He
did.
always, no, they took camping off the table for now, and they said it would not be part of the master plan.
For now.
It would not be part of the master plan, period, but that doesn't mean that it wouldn't happen outside of the master plan. So just because they have this master plan doesn't mean later on down the line, they can't do whatever the heck they
Master
want.
plan, the master plan is the master plan.
It gets updated, so they can go back in 10 years and say, you know what, we really want to do this, and they're gonna add that to the master plan.
As long as they give you 10 years as opposed to 10 weeks. Yeah.
Well,
What about, Antia, what about the money that Josh Shapiro just put out for all this?
so he didn't put any money out specifically for Big Elk Creek State Park. What are you talking about?
He just let go a lot of money for recreation and.
He did, yes.
Okay.
There's no line items that specifically say anything's coming to Big Elk. The money that they have is money they've had. There's money going to White Clay for repairs and all of that. The task force did ask for the 6th meeting to have Cindy Dunn present, since she's the one that would make the decision. And we were told that that would require postponing the meeting because the meeting was supposed to be yesterday. And we all agreed in that task force meeting that yes, the meeting can be postponed. Yes, it may be postponed until January, but that's fine as long as we get to sit down with Cindy Dunn. We received an email last week with the draft of the transcript from this meeting. And in the bottom of that email was a little note saying that the next task force meeting would be November 19th. A bunch of us had said, I thought we were postponing, and he sent another email on Friday saying, sorry for the confusion. We're still having this meeting on the 19th to continue to discuss our master plan and get all the, ducks in a row for our master planning process. So over the weekend, an awful lot of task force members emailed him saying, you said this meeting was postponed. I now have X, Y, and Z. I can't make the meeting. So Monday morning, he finally chose to postpone it indefinitely.
What do you mean indefinitely? So
Right now it's postponed probably until January is what the email said basically.
let me just understand this. This will be your last meeting.
Yes.
And I have 2 questions. One is the intention that Dunn will be there or not?
That's what the task force would like. I have no clue what they're
question mark
actually
for
going
you.
to do.
Okay, so he's never confirmed that. Dunn
No,
will
he
be
has not
there.
committed to having her there at all.
So at the end of this 6th meeting, right? This will be your 6th meeting. What's the thing that we're going to be given?
So at the end of the 6th meeting, we're dismissed. DCNR writes their master plan. At some point, DCNR emails the task force members a draft of their master plan that we can look at before it comes out to the public and make any comments on. Whether DCNR takes our comments or not, who knows? And then they come out and say, this is our master plan. Here it is.
So this may
In
just be a
another
large
public meeting.
pantomime, and at the end of it, we're going to have whatever.
This whole thing has been,
It becomes stage 1, right? The whole thing becomes
Stage 1.
the whole thing becomes we checked the box.
Yeah. Okay.
We-
Disappointing.
We are in the process of getting a bunch of letters of support. So
One here.
I was reaching out to townships and various government officials and groups in the area looking for letters of support for the redesignation to a preserve. We do have letters from London, Britain. We have a letter from Elk. You have your letter here. We are requesting a letter from Oxford Fire and EMS through Elk Township. I would like Franklin to please request from West Grove and Avondale a similar letter, if possible.
You can do that. No problem.
The Chester County Commissioners let me know this morning that they have approved writing their letter of support, so that's coming as well. The SAVE organization has committed to writing a letter. We have East Nottingham has committed to writing a letter. We are waiting to hear from New London, and we are working to reach out to Penn Township, and we're waiting to hear from the ORPC, which is the Oxford Regional Planning Commission.
So how do you plan on publicizing that all of these townships and local organizations and environmental groups are signing all of these letters of, I don't know what you call them, but letters of protest or letters of opposition?
I'm calling them letters of support.
Letters of support.
Right.
And so I guess, I have the letter in front of me, and just so I don't want to read the whole thing. But what I will say is that the content of the letter essentially says that Franklin Township, the Board of Supervisors, opposes the plan to build campgrounds, RV facilities, overnight occupancy buildings, facility visitor centers, et cetera, and that we would support redesignating Big Elk Creek to a preserve. And I'm going to preface this with the fact that there is no legal binding definition of what a preserve and a park is.
Correct.
It's the social intention that those words infer. So I changed the wording slightly of the letter. So I apologize to say, with the understanding of what that word means, the preservation of Big Elk Creek as a natural and lightly developed refuge for all. So to be kind of specific, because again, preserve and we've talked about this internally about what preserve in a park,
Right.
state park means, and really it doesn't. There's an
So-
intention when you
right.
call something a preserve versus state park, but there is no legal binding.
So right now, you're right, there's nothing legally binding with the word preserve. However, the intent is that by placing it back into preserve status where it was to begin with, automatically knocks overnight accommodations out. They do not allow and will not allow overnight accommodations in White Clay Creek Preserve.
Yes.
So if we are an adjacent preserve, they should not be able to allow the same thing. So it gives us a little bit of breathing room while we figure out where else we need to go.
Well, and I think people really started to take notice when it was redesignated as a state park, right?
Yes.
And that was when people said, well, this is alarming. Why, what are they planning? No, they're not planning anything, you know, like 3 years later, it was,
Right.
you know, so you know, words are important. They carry weight. And so I'm going to propose that the Township Board of Supervisors sign this letter in support.
I appreciate that. And to answer your question originally, they are getting published on the Save Big Elk Creek Facebook page.
Great.
They'll eventually be under letters of support on our website. They're getting sent to Secretary Dunn and Josh Shapiro from each municipality or group that is writing a letter.
And the Philadelphia Inquirer,
We can certainly send that to all of
local
them.
news agencies.
Just so you know, it's getting out there enough that I've had in the time span of 1 week, I've had 2 requests from 2 different universities out of state that are using this as case studies for their classes.
Oh, that's great.
So Princeton University sent a student down this past weekend and I spent the afternoon with her on Saturday.
Send their attorneys.
And last Wednesday, I spent about an hour and a half with Hiram College's environmental conflict class through Zoom doing some work. So it's out there enough that colleges are picking up on it at this point. So
Great.
hopefully we
Great.
keep making enough noise that it makes a difference.
Yeah,
I don't
great.
know.
Thank you. And I appreciate that
Thanks.
you're still encouraged and active and working on this because it's a lot of work and it's a lot of I don't know, it's a trial for sure.
It's a
So,
group effort.
thank
So
you.
it's not just me, but
Yeah.
you know,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank
Anthony,
you.
can you just make sure you send the sample of the fire department letter to Jeff?
I don't know if Elk is doing a formal letter. I think
We can give them a copy.
They
of this
are
and
just-
record it. Yeah, we can.
I think Elk was just verbally asking them. I'm not sure if there was a formal-
We can
request.
rewrite this and say, hey, would you guys sign this?
That'd be fantastic.
I think-
And if-
Yeah, the fire department will have a little bit different tact, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, just because, you know, for them, it makes a difference too, right? And in Elk Township especially, I think, what is it, almost a third of their budget goes to fire and EMS?
Yeah.
And this
Well-
is going to increase that.
I mean, and I think that and one of the things that I like about the way this letter is framed is, you know, there's a personal and emotional attachment to this piece of property, right? It's very special to us in our community, and we feel like it's, you know, this is our backyard and you're messing it up, right? There's that emotional component to it, but there's also a practical component to it. Right. So we, as a township, our taxpayer dollars are going to pay for the fire, or the roads, all of the infrastructure that the DCNR is going to be using. They pay $0. It is going to be all 100% on Elk Township and Franklin Township. So if you're on the fence about whether or not you want a fully functioning state park with an amphitheater and RV parking and all the bells and whistles a fully loaded state park comes with, just be aware you're all going to pay for it.
Yep.
DCNR doesn't pay for it. We're all going to pay for it. And so, you know, I'm a pretty practical person when it comes to those sorts of things. And that's a very valid argument to me, right? Even if I didn't care if they paved it over, it's gonna cost us money and our taxes are going to go up.
And one other thing that's worth mentioning is they are talking about, because I don't think Elk wants them connecting to Spring Lawn necessarily. So they are planning to use tunnels under Spring Lawn to get from one side to the other.
This is unreal. It is.
Apparently the tunnels already exist and they were used for moving cattle or something, and they just want to fix them up and move them, but just be aware that they're coming up with ways to get around.
It's just some wild
Yeah.
stuff. All right. Hey, thank you. Again, I appreciate it. Good work. Hang in there.
Yeah. The Historical Commission and Historical Review Board report, Paul Agassi. I know he's been here.
There he is. Hi, Paul.
Hello. So we did not meet, you did not have a written report because at that time there was nothing to report, but we did have a historical talk a week ago tonight in New London, and the New London Area Historical Society is picking up the cost for that. The speaker was Sarah Beth Kohat. She spoke on covered bridges in the Avon region. For people who are, we had a good turnout, about between 30 and 35 people, which is, it's a good turnout for us. And for anybody who is interested in the topic, Sarah Beth Kohat, and her last name is spelled Kohut, is a member of our historical commission. She's written a book on London, on covered bridges in the area. And you can find it online at places like Amazon and other places that sell book. You may even find the book already sort of half price on some other sites. I'm not sure how that happens with a brand new book, but it does happen. And it will tell you where the surviving bridges are, and it has some information on how to get there if you want to go see any of these structures. And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. All right, Dawn, Friends of the Healing Garden.
Believe it or not, the three beautiful master gardeners, we were planning on doing a project before I went on vacation, but that didn't happen. Anyway, the one master gardener has done a full inventory. Betsy doesn't even know. Were you up there? Did she talk to you? She did a full inventory of what we have up there now, because the third year they say that the garden pops, and it popped. So she went up and she said, we need to figure out how to move forward from here. And that's the project that the three of them are going to do for their Penn State project, for their Master Gardener project. And so first thing she had to do was take an inventory. We're going to meet again in January and start making plans, because some of the stuff will have to be pulled out of there and some of it will have to be moved around, but we had to know what we had there first. And on December 11th, there's a Bucks County Zoom class on biodiverse yet appealing pollinator gardens that we're all going to. So biodiverse, but we want it to look beautiful too. We don't want it to look like a bed of weeds. So we're going to try to figure it out and try to get it worked on. And we're really excited about moving forward.
We have the rain garden out here, and maybe as you call.
That's
Yeah,
exactly the
good, good,
plan.
good
So
thinking.
some of our little cultivars will come over here finish up the rain garden. And of course, my beautiful Amy is gonna work on refurbishing the bluebird houses over the winter and putting some air ventilation things in them and stuff like that, so.
All right. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. All right. And last but not least, Park Rec and Open Space Board report.
Everyone. Hello, friends. I wanted to first off say that we did not have our meeting on the 6th due to communication effort issues. I do want to take this time to thank Dave Gerstenhaber and Jim Johnson for their wonderful donations for the porta potty at Crossan Park. And then with that, also, we have our lovely Dave Magnus, who is going to present something to you.
But, so we've been talking about this for months. It's finally time for the reveal of this ASL sign for the tot lot, American Sign Language. Jeff, hold them up for me, please.
It's right behind you.
So this one here will be facing the parking lot. When you walk up, you'll see this backside. That'll be on the backside, which will be on the tot lot side. It is 2 feet by 3 feet. Kyle has worked extensively hard with me because I keep changing things. And she's like a trooper. She just keeps on doing it. So we've all talked in the pro and we decided that, you know, these were the final product. I'd like to put them, I need that last picture. Uh-oh. Not that one. That one says I need a
Lost
haircut.
it all, but
There we go. So here's the location. I had originally talked, see what that airplane is up there? I talked about putting it up there, but we can't hide the airplane. So we're going to put it right there where the cursor is, next to the mini library. It's hard to say that because I want to say the birdhouse. But anyway, we're going to put it there. I'm considering 4x4 posts on both sides. Paint them green like I have all the poles coming down, right? And then you have that matching blue in there to bring up everything else in there. Now comes the big point where I beg for money. It's fine. So the cost on it is $140 for the double-sided sign. The lady cannot give me a price on shipping until she ships it, which I find kind of strange, but I can't give you that price. Posts are roughly $10 a piece for 4x4s and another $10 for nuts, bolts, screws. I would suggest stainless so they don't rust. I didn't count in bags of concrete. We don't really need to put it in concrete, but we can if you want us to, you know, if you allow us to do it. So that's it. Sharks, what do you think? Any questions?
It sounds like it's $200 or less. I mean, that's a no-brainer to me. Sounds great.
cute sign.
Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Bob, as long as you put my little wood thing around the bottom.
That's still in the process.
What do you want? What's going on the bottom?
Oh, what did you say? I'm sorry.
We're just working on a square bed below the library so I can plant something or put rocks or put something nice.
I got another
we
idea,
paint
but I
the
want to talk
post,
to you
yeah.
after and then we can propose it because I don't want to
We won't do
derail it. Well, I got another idea what we can add to your sign.
Okay.
But I don't want to slow things down more than I already have. So.
All right, one last thing from the pro. I also want to disclose by state law, I am allowed to record this because it is a public meeting. So I'm just disclosing that I am recording this for my own public record, private record. All right, for the past 4 years, I have worked alongside some wonderful people in this township and in the open space Parks and Rec department. I spent countless hours working with the township to create a beautiful Franklin Crossing trail map, just the way you guys liked it. My family has volunteered many hours in trail cleanup and tree plantings throughout the years, and I have loved every second of it. However, I have never felt the kind of disrespect that this Board of Supervisors has imposed on me. Whether I'm a chairperson or not on a board, I'm still a resident of Franklin Township. To deny any female resident the safety and comfort of having another female present in the room when required to be alone with a male staff member is absolutely unacceptable. Even more unacceptable is that not one person from the township has reached out to me. Not one person has asked me what my concerns were. You went straight to the male in this situation and protected him. I have heard from no one until I heard from the township's attorney the following day. In that email, I was asked to resign. Plain as day, I was asked to resign from a volunteer position that I passionately love. simply for asking to be accompanied by a female in the presence of a male staff member. You broke the spirit of a passionate volunteer in your community. Your lack of integrity in upholding the interests of this township's residents is appalling. And with that, I resign as Parks Rec and Open Space Chairperson, as well as from the board as a whole. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a?
Chairman, if I can. So normally what I do, normally my advice is when you have an appointed committee member tender a resignation, you accept it because that puts a punctuation mark on it. So I would recommend that the board consider accepting that resignation, and you do it by motion, second, and discussion.
Sure. So I make a motion that the board accept Mary Hanley's resignation from the pro.
I second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Do we have a new pro chair? Okay.
Okay.
We have a meeting in 2 weeks, our normal monthly meeting, and we will discuss that forward as a committee the next steps.
Great.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I will open the floor to public comment. Public comment can include comments on anything attendees may want to share. Commenters must state their name and whether they're a township resident or a taxpayer of the township.
Ryan Hanley, married to Mary. I'm a resident of the township. Just wanted to further that. I thought it was a pretty crappy way that that whole thing was handled. You just disrespected her. And I really didn't appreciate it. I was sitting as a kind of as a watcher to that. So my hope is that now that she's just a resident, you would be able to find the respect and treat her with that respect as a resident rather than a volunteer, because the volunteer piece is getting a little weird in my estimation. I mean, obviously you're standing there trying to get this, you're getting Matt involved because he does a lot of good work, and you're getting him because he doesn't live here. He's doing grants. You're looking for people with the grants that don't live here. So that's great. I think there's an element that you can have more than just those people. And you can also have people like Paul and Mary and me doing that work. I don't understand the concept of putting the volunteer down with that element of trying to get that, that volunteer to do exactly what you need. The whole element of like the porta potties, like you guys obviously think they're good because you bought them. But that whole element of how you treated her and everything got blown up because of the process just didn't make a lot of sense to me. But I mean, the dichotomy of it is interesting, because with Matt, whom you like, hey buddy, sure, you can do that. Maybe, do we need an engineer to come in and check the bridge? Okay, yeah, let's do it. But with Paul, it's like, shut up, no comments. So I think it's that element of whatever it is, we have to hash it out so we can get volunteers who want to do things on every level in this township and not have these fights. That's the element that I see. That's all I have.
So I don't know if I don't want to prolong this, but I didn't say anything to you, Mary. I do not believe we disrespected Mary. We worked very well with Mary when you were working on the maps. I thought you did a fantastic job. Thought it was a good back and forth. Your patience was amazing as we kept on changing things around. I think Donna disagrees with you in terms of saying, is it reasonable to make a request to say that I need another female? And actually you named the person you wanted in order to meet a staff person. I thought that was odd.
Donna, I would have loved if you could.
You should have.
That would have been fine. The only reason I specified Stacy is because she's here. It's convenient.
So you weren't given the option to bring somebody from the pro? Anybody from the pro, if that would have made you feel more comfortable?
They work. They work. It was a morning meeting and they work.
So it just was, I think it's not, it was, I do not look at it as, like, I do meetings all the time. I don't, as long as I'm not in a dark alley somewhere, I feel pretty comfortable.
Were you raped when you were a kid?
No, I haven't been raped.
Were you abused as a child when you were 6 by a man? Were you raped again when you were 15?
No.
Okay, then maybe you don't understand where I'm coming from.
So if you have that fear, bring a friend, bring someone, but you presented something that came across as an accusation against one of our staff members.
That is not true. It was not an accusation. In no sense did I ever accuse anyone. Mind you, I'm not using a name.
I said it came across that way, and that's why we had to stop everything and we had to bring the lawyer into it. I'm just saying, I thought we treated you with respect until we got to that very end, because I thought the request was odd. But I hear what you're saying, and if you do feel uncomfortable, you should have brought somebody with you. And we could arrange the time if it had to be, I don't know, whatever time made sense, so you had another person to come with you.
How
Go
was
ahead.
I supposed to make these accommodations when no one reached out to me? No one spoke to me. I reached out to each, well, aside from you, Donna, because I don't have your number, probably your smart move. But I reached out to the others. Not one reached back to me. I'm assuming it's due to your attorney's advice, which fine, whatever. But no, how is that respectful? Not reaching out to someone when they have that kind of concern. How is that respectful?
I truly didn't know what to do with the request. The request seemed very odd to me. That's why we went to our lawyer. But as I said, I don't want to take away from our relationship. We up to that point, I thought the relationship was a very productive relationship. I appreciated the work you did. You are still doing, and I just want to make sure that the public knows that we had a good relationship up to this last moment where you did request a staff member to be a particular staff member, and we thought that was odd.
The particular part is simply, again, because she's available. It has nothing to do with Stacy as a whole. She works here. It could have been Melissa. I don't care. I don't know Melissa, so. But it's really, I don't think that the sex of the person should really be any concern of anyone.
So I don't want to prolong it. I just thought that's why we went to our lawyer. That's why the conversation stopped, because it was for me, an odd request. I don't have your background. I don't know what you've been through. And so nothing.
I think you guys got it.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate that. But I just want you to know she did fantastic work and was truly appreciated. Okay. Thank you. I made that better.
All right. With that, I make a motion to adjourn our meeting at 8:55 PM.
I'll second.
All right.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you, everybody. Good night.